So for as long as I can remember, the price floor for a MacBook has been about $1,000. But recently we've seen on Amazon that the brand new M4 MacBook Air is selling for $799. And that alone is probably the best deal in tech. The amount of efficiency, power, build materials that you get, and just overall quality for that price point is unmatched, and there's no real comparison out there at that price point. But now, what if I told you that Apple's working on a new MacBook that's powered by an A18 Pro iPhone chip, might have cellular data, and has the same build quality, but is $599? That's something that I know a lot of people are gonna want. Let's talk about the new, cheap, and entry-level MacBook that Apple's working on and everything you need to know. This is gonna be an exciting one, and it's coming way sooner than we expect. Let's talk about it. But now, before we continue, if you do enjoy videos like this one, where we keep you up to date on all things Apple, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment down below so I know that you made it. But now, let's talk about this new cheap MacBook that Apple's working on that could come as soon as the end of 2025. So I quickly want to contextualize the current MacBook lineup. So to start off, like I mentioned, the M4 MacBook Air brand new directly from Apple is $999. And that MacBook can do a lot of different things. It's known for balancing performance, portability, battery life, being able to do kind of that 4K video editing and Photoshop, but also just being a business machine that can do Slack and communication and email, and be able to watch YouTube videos and Netflix and multitask. I mean, the entry-level one has 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and it's going to be more than enough for about 95% of purchasers that are getting into the MacBook world. And then of course you build it from there with the 15-inch MacBook Air, then you get into the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, and you can spend upwards of $7,000 on a fully loaded MacBook Pro. So then why would Apple at this point make a cheaper MacBook, and why would they want to do that when their cheapest MacBook right now is even $799 on Amazon, and you get all that power for such a small price, and again, that future-proofing when it comes to the usability of these MacBooks? And the reasoning for a cheaper MacBook is because first off, the Mac sales have slowed down post-pandemic, everybody's already gotten the Mac that they wanted, and ever since Apple switched over to their M series chips, these chips have been so efficient, so well powered, and the battery and performance has been so good that their Mac sales have actually slowed down because they're just lasting so long. Which again, for Apple is a blessing and a curse. You know, they can sell people on quality and longevity, but at the same time, they're not really doing the planned obsolescence thing when it comes to their MacBooks, meaning that these Macs can last anywhere from 5 to 10 years if you take care of them, depending on your use case, no problem, because for the average user, the entry-level M4 MacBook Air is almost overpowered. So now with this new entry-level MacBook, they're trying to capture the more casual and budget-friendly user, and also they want to compete with those lower-level Windows and Chrome machines of the world, because they know if they put one of their chipsets in a cheaper MacBook, it's going to be way better than a $600 Windows machine and light years better than a $600 Chrome machine. So now, what do we know about this cheaper MacBook? Because there's a lot of good that comes with it. I'm just excited to see what Apple can do in that cheaper kind of budget area when it comes to how much usability and just how much you can get out of this MacBook. So first off, it's going to be powered by the A18 Pro chip, which is going to be the same chip that's in your iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. So this is not going to be an M series chip, but again, the architecture is going to be very similar, and the M series chip was kind of birthed by the A18 and the A series chip from iPhones of years past, because these iPhones and iPads got so efficient and so good with battery life and performance and being able to kind of be instantaneous that Apple decided to create a laptop and desktop version of it, which is their M series chip. So the architecture is going to be very similar and the experience is pretty one-to-one. And since it does have an A18 chip, there could be a possibility that we have cellular data options, meaning that this is going to be Apple's first netbook in years. And I think it's going to be the first one where it has built in. I think about 20 to 25 years ago, Apple tried to do a netbook where you could do some sort of add-on on the side of it to add some cellular data connectivity, but this will be, you know, built into it in an option, maybe the same way you would buy it on an iPad, where you add an additional $150 to $200 at checkout, and then you have a 5G enabled MacBook, which is something that everybody would drool over. And this could also have Apple's in-house modem as well as their C1 chip. So this should be Apple's kind of like breeding ground where everything that they're doing is kind of built internally, so it's fully optimized for battery life, performance, even though it's going to have a kind of lesser chipset moving forward. So we also know that this is going to be a 13-inch size display, so it's not going to be that 12-inch MacBook that we got for a little while there in kind of the 2015 time of the world, which a lot of people wanted, but it's going to be the same idea, where it's going to be a smaller MacBook at 13 inches, but it's going to be all about portability when it comes to that usability. It's also going to come in some friendlier colors, because Apple likes to keep it a little bit friendlier when it comes to the budget accessories and products that they come out with, so we're going to have a silver, a pink, a yellow, and then possibly a blue, hopefully a little bit more saturated than years past. And then, like I said, from a production timeline standpoint, it's going to enter production in 2025, so this year, and we could see it towards the end of 2025, but more than likely in spring of 2026, which again is much faster than any of us anticipated. And then from a pricing standpoint, this probably will be priced at $699 on Apple's website. You'll probably get a $599 version for the education store. And then that means that we might get like a $499 version eventually on Amazon, which is crazy to think about. I mean, it's not that crazy because we've seen the M4 Mac Mini be $499 on Amazon before and even cheaper. So doing that in a laptop form factor is something that isn't out of this world. It'll just be amazing, especially in this economy, funny enough. So you would think that because the price point is going to be so much lower, that you're going to be sacrificing in performance in some way, and for the most part, not really. I mean, you're dealing with the A18 Pro, so you know what you're getting for the most part. So from a benchmark standpoint, you're going to be close to the M4, getting about a 3500 score, and the M4 chip getting a 3700 score. Then multi-core is going to be closer to the M1, so that's kind of where you're going to see that sacrifice when it comes to performance. But again, you'll be able to do pretty much everything that you need to off of this MacBook, especially at that price point. So the multi-core score should be about 8780 on the A18 Pro, which matches up with the M1 score of 8800. So we'll be easily able to handle things like web browsing, emailing, Slack, like I mentioned earlier, email, communication, some streaming, all that's going to be totally fine, and it'll be good for some light creative work. I mean, I know people that do all of their work from a creative standpoint on their iPhone right now, so why couldn't it be done on the same chipset, just in a different piece of hardware, right? So being able to edit some stuff in 4K, being able to edit some things in Lightroom or Photoshop, all things that will be able to be done, albeit it might not be as efficient as something like an M4 MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, of course, but for $599, it's hard to complain. And then battery life. The battery life on this thing should be next level. I'm talking about 30 hours of battery life because the battery is going to be so big in that chassis with the efficiency of the A18 Pro, I think is going to be amazing in its own right. So battery life, this will be the battery life champ of any Apple product moving forward. So now, why is Apple doing this? And we kind of talked about this in the very beginning. They're trying to target markets like students, budget-conscious buyers, the people that are switching from Chromebooks or cheaper Windows machines. And I think Apple's trying to structure this the same way that the iPad lineup is structured. If you remove the iPad mini for a second, you have the budget-level iPad, which starts at $299 from Amazon, which has the A16 chip. It can do a lot of the things, especially with the new update to iPadOS 26. It gets you about 97% of the experience that you would get out of an iPad Pro. And then you have the iPad Air, which handles pretty much everything that you could want to handle because it basically has the latest chipset in the iPad Air. The only thing you're not getting is the hardware that you get from the iPad Pro. And then of course you have the iPad Pro, which you can soup up with a little bit more RAM, and you get all the best hardware. And now they're going to mimic that same lineup on the MacBook side. So right now we have the Air, and then we have the Pro model MacBooks. Now we're going to get this kind of like budget level MacBook, which gets you most of the experience of the Air and the Pro, but you're not really getting all the bells and whistles from a hardware standpoint, and it's just going to be a cheaper device overall that's targeted to a different demographic, albeit those students and those teachers and those kind of new professionals that just are a little bit more budget conscious. So I think this is going to be the new default MacBook for most people. If people are going to be starting school next year and then they walk into an Apple store, they see this one, this is what they're going to gravitate to, right? A $599 with an education discount. It'll still have USB-C, it'll probably still have MagSafe, it's going to have all the latest and greatest internally that Apple's giving you, and it'll still have that kind of Apple hardware aesthetic, of course. You just won't be getting, of course, the mini LED, and you'll probably be missing out on a few different things that make it a lot cheaper, so you're going to save on parts, but internally, it's going to still be an Apple product, and it's still going to be able to run all things Apple, and for $599 to get the full Apple experience from a laptop, it's something that's absolutely unheard of. Because again, the iPad Air, it has the M3 chip, but it is $599 from Apple. I believe it's $449 right now on Amazon. But you do need to go out and spend money on a keyboard and a mouse. Let me know in the comment down below what you guys think. Is a $599 MacBook something that you're excited for? Do you think it's going to sell like hotcakes like I do? I think this is going to be a no-brainer for Apple. It could cannibalize a little bit of the MacBook Air sales, and I would recommend, if you do want something that's a little bit more powerful, jump on the M4 MacBook Air right now, because that one's probably going to increase in price a little bit, especially on the Amazon side, once this new one comes out, to avoid all the cannibalization, I guess for lack of a better term, of their own products. But a $599 MacBook that can do pretty much 95 to 97% of all things Apple is going to be a huge win for Apple moving forward, and everybody will be picking one of these up, especially as they start to grow into it and get a little older. But that'll do it, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below. Also leave a comment about this $599 MacBook and I'll pin the best one. But if you want to watch more videos like this one, definitely consider watching one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm excited, man. Apple in 2025 and 2026 is gonna be amazing. And we haven't even talked about a new Vision Pro that's coming out soon, so stay tuned for that.